The world watched in horror. Across the European continent, a storm was brewing, a maelstrom of hate and violence that would forever scar the human conscience. Germany, once a nation of poets and thinkers, had fallen under the sway of a demagogue, a charismatic leader who promised strength and prosperity but delivered only death and destruction. Adolf Hitler, the architect of this nightmare, had harnessed the simmering resentment of a nation humiliated by defeat in the Great War, twisting it into a weapon of unimaginable cruelty. Fueled by a poisonous ideology of racial superiority and territorial expansion, Germany embarked on a campaign of aggression that would plunge the world into darkness. With stunning speed and brutality, the German war machine marched across Europe, crushing all opposition in its path. Poland, the first victim of this unprovoked aggression, was swallowed whole, its people subjected to a reign of terror that foreshadowed the horrors to come. The Low Countries fell next, then France, once the proud bastion of liberty, was brought to its knees in a matter of weeks. From the frozen plains of Russia to the sun-drenched shores of North Africa, the swastika flew high, a symbol of oppression and tyranny. The world stood aghast, caught in the grip of a conflict that would redefine the meaning of barbarity. Millions would perish in the ensuing carnage, victims of a war waged not only on battlefields but also in the hearts and minds of men. This is the story of Germany's darkest hours, a chronicle of the crimes that stained a nation's soul and left an indelible mark on the tapestry of history. September 1st, 1939. Dawn breaks over Poland, but the rising sun brings no warmth, only the cold steel of German tanks crashing through the border. Hitler's blitzkrieg, a whirlwind of mechanized warfare, unleashed its fury upon a nation ill-prepared for the onslaught. Polish resistance, though valiant, was swiftly overwhelmed by the sheer might of the Wehrmacht. Cities crumbled under relentless bombardment, their streets transformed into killing fields. But the invasion of Poland was more than a military campaign, it was the first act in a monstrous drama that would unfold over the coming years. The Holocaust, that systematic extermination of European Jewry, found its genesis in the occupied territories of Poland. Ghettos, those cramped and squalid prisons, were erected to contain the Jewish population, isolating them from the outside world, preparing them for the horrors to come. The echoes of Kristallnacht, that night of broken glass that had shattered Jewish communities across Germany, now reverberated across Poland, a harbinger of the horrors that awaited. In the shadows, the SS, Hitler's black-shirted legions, moved with chilling efficiency, rounding up Jews, deporting them to camps where death awaited. Families were torn apart, their lives extinguished in gas chambers, their bodies discarded like refuse. The world would later recoil in horror at the scale of the genocide, but in those early days of the war, the seeds of unimaginable suffering were sown in the blood-soaked soil of Poland. June 22, 1941. The early morning mist hung heavy over the Eastern Front, shrouding the landscape in an eerie silence. Then, the silence was shattered. From the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, a thunderous barrage of artillery fire erupted, signaling the commencement of Operation Barbarossa, Hitler's audacious gamble to conquer the Soviet Union. 3 million German soldiers, the largest invasion force in human history, surged across the border, aiming to crush Stalin's regime and seize the vast resources of the East. The scale of the invasion was breathtaking, its brutality unparalleled. For the German army, this was no ordinary war. It was a crusade, a war of annihilation waged against an enemy deemed racially inferior and ideologically incompatible. The scorched earth policy, a brutal tactic of destroying everything in their path, left a trail of devastation across the Russian countryside. Villages were razed, crops burned, civilians massacred, all in the name of securing Lebensraum, living space, for the German master race. The Eastern Front became a cauldron of unimaginable suffering, a maelstrom of death and destruction. Millions of Soviet soldiers perished in the relentless German advance, their sacrifice a testament to the ferocity of the Red Army's resistance. But the civilian population bore the brunt of the Nazi terror. Forced labor, mass executions, and deliberate starvation were the tools of this genocidal campaign, leaving an enduring scar on the landscape of Eastern Europe. Behind the front lines, following closely in the wake of the advancing Wehrmacht, came the Einsatzgruppen, mobile killing units tasked with a chilling mission: the extermination of Jews, Roma, and other undesirables. These units, comprised of SS and police personnel, operated with ruthless efficiency, transforming the occupied territories into killing fields. Armed with lists of names and fueled by a fanaticism born of Nazi ideology, they stalked their prey relentlessly, leaving a trail of blood and sorrow in their wake. Their methods were as varied as they were cruel. Mass shootings, often conducted in broad daylight, became a horrifying spectacle, a public display of Nazi barbarity. Victims, men, women, and children were forced to dig their own graves before being lined up and shot, their bodies tumbling into the freshly dug earth. The chilling efficiency of these operations, meticulously documented in reports and photographs, stands as a testament to the cold-blooded depravity of the Nazi regime. The Einsatzgruppen were the vanguard of the Holocaust, the tip of the spear that pierced the heart of European Jewry. Their actions, though often overshadowed by the mechanized horror of the death camps, represent the raw, unvarnished brutality of the Nazi genocide. Theirs is a story of calculated cruelty, a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity. September 8, 1941. The Iron Ring closes around Leningrad, trapping nearly 3 million souls within its grasp. The Wehrmacht, unable to capture the city by force, opted for a more insidious method of conquest: starvation. For 872 agonizing days, the city endured a siege unlike any other in modern history, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the depths of human suffering. The daily ration dwindled to a few crumbs of bread, barely enough to sustain life. Food became the most precious commodity, traded on the black market for exorbitant prices. People ate anything they could find: leather belts, wallpaper paste, even pets. The haunting images of emaciated bodies, their faces gaunt and hollowed, remain a chilling reminder of the horrors endured by the besieged population. Death became a constant companion, stalking the streets, claiming its victims in homes, workplaces, and even in the breadlines. The city's frozen canals and rivers became mass graves, the icy water swallowing the bodies of the countless dead. Leningrad, once a vibrant metropolis, was transformed into a macabre tableau of human suffering, a stark testament to the inhumanity of war. August 1942. The Battle of Stalingrad, a clash of titans on the banks of the Volga River, became a turning point in the war, a symbol of German overreach and Soviet resilience. Amidst the rubble of a shattered city, a battle raged with unparalleled ferocity, a struggle for every inch of ground, every building, every life. The fighting was brutal, hand-to-hand combat amidst the ruins, a desperate struggle for survival. But beyond the battlefield, another tragedy unfolded, a testament to the barbarity of war. German treatment of Soviet prisoners of war was nothing short of atrocious. Captured soldiers, already weakened by months of fighting and deprivation, were subjected to unimaginable cruelty. Starvation, disease, and exposure claimed the lives of countless POWs, their bodies discarded in makeshift camps scattered across the Eastern Front. The Geneva Conventions, those international agreements designed to protect prisoners of war, were flagrantly disregarded by the German army. Captured soldiers were viewed not as human beings, but as Untermenschen, subhumans, unworthy of compassion or basic human dignity. Their suffering, largely forgotten in the annals of history, stands as a stark reminder of the dark side of human nature unleashed by the fires of war. April 19, 1943. The Warsaw Ghetto, a symbol of Nazi oppression and Jewish resilience, erupted in flames. A handful of Jewish fighters, armed with smuggled weapons and fueled by a desperate desire for freedom, rose up against their oppressors in a final act of defiance. Outnumbered and outgunned, they fought with a ferocity born of despair, determined to die on their own terms rather than be led like sheep to the slaughter. The uprising, though ultimately crushed by the overwhelming force of the SS, sent shockwaves through the Nazi regime. It was a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Jewish people, a refusal to succumb to tyranny, even in the face of certain death. The courage of these fighters, many of them teenagers, inspired resistance movements across Europe, a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. The destruction of the Warsaw Ghetto, meticulously planned and executed by the SS, became a symbol of Nazi barbarity. Buildings were leveled, streets transformed into smoldering ruins, the remnants of a community extinguished in a maelstrom of fire and violence. The echoes of the uprising, however, continued to resonate, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable adversity. Under the codename Operation Reinhard, the Nazi regime unleashed its most ambitious killing operation, a meticulously planned and ruthlessly executed genocide that would claim the lives of millions. 6 death camps, Belzec, Sobibor, Treblinka, Majdanek, Chelmno, and Auschwitz-Birkenau, were constructed in occupied Poland, each a factory of death, a testament to the chilling efficiency of the Nazi killing machine. Trains packed with Jewish deportees from across Europe arrived at these camps day and night, disgorging their human cargo into a nightmare world of barbed wire fences, watchtowers, and gas chambers. The process was chillingly bureaucratic, a perverse application of industrial logic to the task of extermination. Victims were stripped of their possessions, their hair shorn, their bodies reduced to numbers tattooed on their forearms. The gas chambers, disguised as showers, became the final destination for countless victims. Zyklon B pellets, dropped through vents in the ceiling, released deadly cyanide gas, extinguishing life in a matter of minutes. The bodies were then cremated in ovens, the ashes scattered, the evidence of the crime erased, but the memory of the horror endured, a permanent stain on the conscience of humanity. In the sterile confines of Nazi laboratories, a different kind of horror unfolded, a perversion of science in the service of a twisted ideology. Doctors, sworn to heal and alleviate suffering, became instruments of cruelty, conducting horrific experiments on human subjects in the name of medical advancement and racial purity. Prisoners, deemed expendable by the Nazi regime, were subjected to unimaginable tortures. Freezing experiments designed to test the limits of human endurance in icy water left victims with frostbite and permanent injuries. High-altitude tests, simulating the conditions of high-altitude flight, often resulted in death or severe brain damage. Sterilization experiments aimed at limiting the reproduction of undesirable populations left countless victims infertile and traumatized. The ethical boundaries of medical research were shattered, the sanctity of human life disregarded. The Hippocratic Oath, that ancient pledge to do no harm, was twisted into a tool of oppression and torture. The legacy of these experiments, a dark chapter in the history of medicine, serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the corrosive influence of ideology. Across the vast expanse of the Nazi Empire, millions toiled in conditions of unimaginable hardship, their labor fueling the German war machine. From factories to mines to farms, forced laborers drawn from conquered territories and concentration camps were treated as expendable commodities, their lives valued only for their productive output. The conditions were brutal. Long hours, meager rations, and constant terror were the hallmarks of this system of exploitation. Beatings, torture, and summary executions were commonplace, a reminder of the precariousness of life under Nazi rule. Many succumbed to exhaustion, disease, or starvation, their bodies discarded in mass graves, a testament to the human cost of Nazi ambition. This vast network of forced labor, a cornerstone of the Nazi war economy, was built on a foundation of racial hatred and economic exploitation. The lives of millions were sacrificed at the altar of German ambition, their suffering a stark reminder of the inhumanity inherent in systems of oppression and exploitation. In the aftermath of the war, as the world grappled with the full scope of Nazi crimes, a momentous legal reckoning took place in the bombed-out city of Nuremberg. The Nuremberg Trials, a landmark event in the history of international law, sought to hold the architects of the Nazi regime accountable for their crimes against humanity. The trials, conducted by an international tribunal, exposed the horrors of the Nazi regime in chilling detail. Testimonies of survivors, mountains of documentary evidence, and the confessions of perpetrators painted a grim picture of genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. The world watched in horror as the full extent of Nazi barbarity was revealed. The verdicts, delivered after months of deliberations, sent a clear message. Individuals, regardless of their position or power, could be held accountable for their actions. The Nuremberg Trials established a precedent for international justice, a beacon of hope in a world still reeling from the horrors of war. The echoes of Germany's war crimes during World War II reverberate through time, a haunting reminder of the fragility of peace and the depths of human depravity. The Holocaust, the systematic extermination of 6 million Jews, stands as a chilling testament to the dangers of unchecked hatred and the consequences of indifference. The lessons of this dark chapter in human history must never be forgotten. The Nuremberg Trials, though imperfect, established a vital precedent, affirming the principle of individual accountability for crimes against humanity. The world, scarred by the horrors of the past, must remain vigilant in the face of intolerance, discrimination, and violence. The memory of the victims, their suffering etched in the annals of history, serves as a solemn reminder of the importance of justice, accountability, and the enduring pursuit of a world free from the scourge of war and genocide.